I've been involved in education for about 30 years. For about 13 of those years, I was director of medical student and residency education at the University of Alabama and then at the University of Maryland. And after that, I taught many residents. I probably taught more than 2,500 medical students and residents in my career. I've written a number of books on education. In 1986, I wrote Everyday Doctoring, which explains how the human brain works for medical students. Then in 1992, I published a book called Learning Law. I had gone to law school, and I wrote a book that explains for law students how the logic of the law works. And then in 2004, I published a book called The Fascinating Body, which explains for middle and high school kids and really the lay public how the human body works. And then more recently, I've been involved in a very exciting, to me at least, PowerPoint presentation with attached audio files that explains chemistry to middle and high school kids and science in general. So education has been really my career. The strength of fascinating education and fascinating science in particular is that it requires no memorization of facts. I'm not a fan of memorizing and spitting it back. What fascinating science does is it takes an observation and asks why that happens. And so it gets kids thinking about, well, why does that happen? And we understand the underlying principles, and kids make, that is, that biology and science and chemistry make sense. And it isn't just memorization, because they'll forget it in 5 years. When things make sense, things will stick. The other strength of fascinating education, fascinating science in particular, is that the approach I use uses the entire brain. You know, most education today is really dependent on left hemispheric function because it requires textbooks, and that's reading. That's a left hemispheric function. Fascinating education uses a right hemispheric approach. That is, it's images and attached audio files. We have really ignored kids, maybe not ignored, it's a little strong, but we have really not made use of the right hemisphere as much as I think should be used. A lot of kids don't like to read, and today I would say it's about 90% of kids just don't like to read. That's a left hemispheric function. We need to use a right hemispheric approach because the brain really doesn't care how it gets that information. It's just as effective as a left hemispheric approach. So I have developed a way to use images with attached audio files to impart the information. I think it's a far stronger, much more engaging way of teaching kids, particularly kids at this level, middle school, high school, who yet have not appreciated and maybe not so interested in reading.